What is up, guys? I'm Mike.
And I'm Luke.
Are you Luke?
I guess so.
Well, who knows? The world is topsy-turvy today.
The world is different and everything's changed.
Quite literally, Karis in her half sleep rolled over to me when I came back from the bathroom and saw what happened, and she's like, "Everything good?" I'm like, "The world will never be the same." But the One Piece card game will definitely never be the same. Today we got a ban list which we knew about.
Yeah.
And the announcement of block constructed and rotation, which we did not know about. Although technically has been theorized. It has always been like marked in the bottom right. And back during Christmas, I forgot about this. I saw Twitter this morning. The Japanese card set part of the site had a filter for blocks. They didn't like call it blocks, but it was like year 1, year 2, year 3. It was one of the card
So they were
search filters.
kind of okay.
So it definitely was like pseudo seeded.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of thoughts about those, so
we're just gonna open,
yeah,
start getting into it. We're gonna start with the ban list.
Let's internalize these well.
Gecko Moria.
Okay.
Honestly, like I'm there. Like contextually in the format should not be hit, but from like a card design standpoint, you guys know my opinion on Gecko Moria. I'm there. It's our original 5 out of 5. It's game warping. I guess Big Mom said the original 5 out of 5. But when we started, we started making videos.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that like the Gecko ban has been called for. It's been memed on forever, right? To the point where it's kind of a joke, and it feels like a joke to a lot of competitive players because it's like you know when it's coming, you know when to play around it, and you know like what to do. I think really, but it is a hard card to like future-proof around. So banning it makes a lot of sense to me, but also like banning it in terms of like as a competitive player and as somebody who's played a lot, like it feels easier to play around. So I don't know, like
I think once Red Purple Law got hit with the ban hammer, this to me was inevitable because the argument for Red Purple Law is that it constricts design space both for the deck that's playing the deck it would go into, the card would go into for RP Law, and other decks into RP Law. And I think that just how generic Gecko is, it made it the same way. Now, obviously, you know me and you know the channel. I've been saying just errata it, just that make it say it has to target Thriller Bark cards, and we're juicing. And you can make some really cool Thriller Bark cards then too, right?
Yeah.
Clearly not what they're interested in, so we're not doing that.
Yeah. But again, with the
wait, pause. I just noticed on the graphic, the little asterisk is Altar cards as well. I love the idea of someone being like, Altar, kick him more. Not banned, bro. Not on the.
No. You know card game players, dude. They'll find any way.
No, this is the best collection Ice Age from the second binder. This isn't Ice Age the band cards.
Yeah, I spent $40 on this card. What do you mean? God. All right. Well.
Sorry.
Up next.
this part. Okay, so this part we'll get into why it makes me mad, but like this with Moria just seems insane. Jinbei, it's somewhat consistent, but we get to the end point I want to make after this list. It'll kind of come together. Jinbei getting banned. We've all talked about it. I think what I hate about this ban over Teach or even Law, like I was for Law because it gave Blue like a interaction point in the mid game, which was nice, as well as like a combo piece, as well as like it's not free. Like you do have to return stuff, you do have to do setups. Your opponent can like interact with the setup. Your opponent can squeeze you into setting up things that you don't want to set up and don't want to return, right? Jinbei, obviously powerful, but it gave Blue, like, the general across-the-board juice. Like, Marco decks could do cool things when I've seen builds with that.
Yeah.
Boa decks could do cool things. Not just the Doofy deck. And the Boa deck not flooding nearly as much as Doofy Leader, so the Jinbei feels way more fair in that deck.
Yeah.
It only feels like it was a ban that hits the Doofy Leader specifically, because everyone else that benefits from it was not actually doing inherently broken stuff. And the Teach is the answer if you just want to hit the Doofy deck. So to me, this is confusing where, are you saying you don't want to board spam? Is that what Gecko Moria plus Jinbei tells us, that you don't want board spam in this game? Which is fair if that's what you want, but it doesn't feel like, given the context of format, that's what it is. It feels like this is a Doofy hit, and you hit the one thing that benefits Blue as like a baseline. Yeah.
I mean, I think that kind of speaks to the Gecko Moria as well, because Gecko Moria has been like the lifeblood for a lot of black decks, and like, you know, BY famously. So them hitting Jinbei, I think it is kind of like a multiplay hate, I think.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, I think. I hope I'm wrong, right?
So is Rebecca get hit now next, or is she leader locked?
I don't know.
She's not leader locked. She's type blind.
There are different ways to like multiplay in a lot of other different decks. Let's say Zoro, for instance, or like let's say Bella Betty, right? Like there are a lot of ways to multiplay across a span of different decks, and if they're just gonna hit every single multiplay piece, that's kind of what it's starting to feel like a little bit. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's not because of the advent of the new leaders that are coming out that suffer into wider swings.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So
that's kind of what I wanted to end on too. What's not on this list? So We'll get into that. Yeah, Jinbei
Yeah.
getting hit. I mean, like, not the most shocking giving meta relevancy.
Yeah.
I just feel like if the goal is the health of the game and the diversity of the format, but keeping things within like fair parameters, I feel like there were better options.
Yeah. I actually think it should have been 2-cost Teach, to be honest. But then again, it goes into like what Bandai's ban philosophy, I think, is like if it's showing up in recent things that you can buy in stores, they don't want to ban that card. That's what it feels like to me.
What is the difference? 2.5 months? Or, sorry, a set and then halfway through the set with the starter deck. So it's a 4.5 month difference between Jinbei and starter deck. Like, I just don't think it's that wide for how close to their... These are both less than a year old.
Yeah.
So I think, like, for me, it's...
What I'm saying is the Teach. The Teach, they don't want to ban that because it's been, what, a month and a half of it being in the wild. Or something like that.
Since end of September. So it's been about 5 months.
It's been about 5 months.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the difference between this is pretty much... It's like 3/4... I'm hyper... estimating here. It's been about 3/4 of a year for this and like half a year for Teach. And so to me, that's not, when they're not even a year old, I feel like that's not a huge gap. But I get what you're saying. I do agree that seems to be their general philosophy, like with Black Maria and RP Law, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel like it's close enough where you can justify the other one, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Luke, you're the black player here.
Yeah, sure. Ice Age. Okay, a lot of people were calling for this ban specifically, and it makes sense. I mean, like, 1 for 5. Mike has been on record a lot of times saying that this is one of the most busted cards.
I think it's it's one of the most overpowered 1-drops in the game. It's like top 3 1-drops in the whole game is this card.
I suppose, yeah, but like
the trigger also, like, can we always forget this thing pops 3 costs?
KO's a 3.
The Sagazuki mirror where you would just lose because they randomly popped your TCG was like the worst thing. Yeah, the brand new brother. Sorry. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I think this is I think what this is doing is kind of unhealthy for what we're about to step into. Specifically the and like if you don't know, there is a deck coming out, BU Luffy, that multi-plays things that cost what's up? PU, my bad. Yes.
Purple blue. Not black blue.
My bad. PU Luffy that
PU. No, no one think about that.
It's always everybody ever thinks about. Everybody's all confused about why it's PU. But anyway, this thing plays a bunch of 9 costs onto the field, and by having this, I'm gonna get to Kingdom Come. I'm gonna get.
The Kingdom will come.
But like, just hitting like these things that take care of like large bodies like is kind of hard. But again, the argument is like, oh yeah, you play Ice Age and play Jack. Ooh, such skill, right? Like
Sir, I'm a distinguished One Piece player. Ice Age Jack will filter a card.
Yeah,
please,
exactly. Right. So like, there's that argument that like it's too easy to remove large pieces and it feels bad, right? But I don't know. With these 2 cards gone, I'm really hesitant on the future of black as a color. And a lot of the other things that they printed to combat black within black no longer make a lot of sense, Mike.
Yeah, for me, I feel like what we'll discuss next about blocks in rotation kind of solve this problem if you just don't reprint it.
Yeah.
Like, we keep it out while the power level is where it is, right? While the standard is what it is. And then it will naturally be rotated out as you correct the power level.
That's the thing about ban lists and then a block.
On top of
we'll
it,
talk about this.
But yes,
like,
I think we're on the same page with that. I mean, like I said, on the record, Ice Age, one of the most, if not the most powerful 1-drop in the whole game. I think that the ban has been coming for a long time. I think the timeliness of it in the one time where it actually acts as a balancer and not an overdrive card, specifically, as we're going to get into OP11 here, feels really annoying. And I dare I say, feels like it's intended to maybe push products more than anything else. But I haven't played a lot of OP11 testing yet, so that's like very gut reaction opinion.
I have.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel like though this compared to Jinbei is closer to correct. This is like if I give you a list of top 5 black cards that should get banned, and I give you a list of top 5 blue cards that should be banned, the Jinbei is way lower from like what keeps blue healthy and compared to how strong it is generically in every blue deck, whereas Ice Age is higher in it's generically busted in every black deck, and so it can warrant the ban hammer because it'll even everything out.
Yeah. Up next we have
also the NL players.
Yeah, I mean, up next we have Kingdom Come, and like I'm gonna be very, very real here, guys. Like, absolutely no bias at all for this. I really feel like this card caught a stray. Like,
this is so random to me.
This was random. I mean, like, I feel like the last time I felt like, wow, what a stray was like when like they banned Reject. And there's an argument that like Reject was overloaded and overtuned, and like it didn't kind of do the thing that the color.
Yes.
Right. So, but the thing is, like at the time that we were playing, and like a couple people corroborated this with me. Nobody was really calling for a Reject ban. They like.
I was always calling for Reject ban.
I mean,
like, it's mechanically from design point.
One.
no. But like I gotta say, because Sakazuki's running around doing that shit, right?
Yeah.
And when you're like, well, if he could do that, we could do this. It's like, yes, but also like this just inherently is bad. But when you're in a vacuum, this is bad design. This multiplay, all these abilities, plus trigger at draw, right? Trigger draw, just way too much on a 4 cost.
Yeah.
This card is one of the most balanced cards in the game.
Yeah.
It's an auto kill 6, which means the only other thing you can play during turn is a 4,
Like
or
a
make a
4,
9 meter if you have nothing else. And it forces you to be at 1 or less life to have 0 cost on it.
You're already in the danger zone when you're playing this card, ideally.
I think this is the most egregious ban since probably Nami in the 4.5 format.
Yeah.
Like this just feels like if I were to ever, and I'm not accusing Bandai of necessarily doing this, but like if I were to look at these and be like, if you were to be like, one of these cards is agenda based, this is the most agenda based hit.
Yeah, again, because it's really hitting everything that would be hit in PU Luffy, right? So like, it really feels like we're trying to push the next set, right? And we're trying to dictate what the next set's meta per se is going to be.
Yeah.
Which feels like they drew it up, right? So, and now let's think about all the other removal cards that we have now. It's like Green Shanks, right?
Yeah.
Is one, and then like
Red Shanks, it's a good amount of things.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in our video though when we talk about
but
the actual Luffy decks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially for yellow in particular, right? Like this is the pushover card they have. Again, yellow inherently, like the balance mechanically of the design of this 6 cost was if you play it on curve, unless you just let your opponent swing it in life, you have a big hand, which gives you a pudding, or they can strip the cards from your hand through attacks or whatever afterwards, this card costs you life. And then if you play it on your top end, you're conflicting with the whole thing yellow wants to do, which is just slam 8, 9, and 10 drops, which you can never do when you play this card.
Yeah.
So like, this card was one of the most balanced cards to me. Yes, any target, open, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But for 6 and not providing a body, to me, this was one of the most fair removal spells in the game. So I don't know. For me, this just feels completely unwarranted.
Yeah. And if we're going to talk about the trigger as well, it being a mini Yamato effect, I mean, think about when you're going to be triggering this card. Or think about like when this card like comes down, it's checking both of your life. So at some point, at best, it can pop like a 8 cost on turn 2.
If you're playing Starve and L specifically, right? Like that's like I'm not talking for generic yellow. I'm not even talking about like when you play an L.
Yeah. So it didn't feel warranted. It feels like this is an agenda piece for sure. So
yeah. And notably, what's not on here is Gum Gum Giant, which I have been someone who's, and it's been on camera, so you can go back and see it. Like, I am someone who started with that card should not be banned. You were on the camp of immediately that card should be banned.
Yeah.
And then as we come into the last 2 months, I've been like, this card should be banned. Specifically, why? Because I'm all for, excuse me, I'm all for having leader locked powerful stuff. Jinbei's not leader locked, but for example, it's warlord based, right? The Gum Gum Giant is leader locked, specifically to leader type. And having that raise the floor of this subtype so that we can have really cool things in these subtypes that aren't inherently necessarily broken all the time. And especially in colors that need help, like purple, for example. And I'm like, cool, that's super fine. I mean, it's definitely one of the top 3 most powerful 1-drops, but it's also just contingent on what's there to be played.
Yeah.
And then Bandai decided to print not 1, but 2 pushed purple Luffy leaders in the next 2 sets. EV has green-purple, which is good. And then OP11 has blue-purple, also good. Both of them extremely broken. Both of them the hard counter to the other one inherently, because they're both doing go big value stuff.
We now have 5 purple Luffy leaders.
Plus Robin. Yes.
So like, the amount of leaders who can have access to this card might as well be generic.
But also 3 of them are like, P. Luffy is top 4 decks of the format, right? He's easily locked there right now. And then only is not top 4 decks of the format in the next 2 formats because the next 2 Luffy leaders push it out.
Yeah.
That are doing the same thing but better, quote unquote.
And there could be an argument that like if you're using it in PU Luffy, you're not really advancing your game state. But the thing is, it still has access to it.
Yeah, and going back to kind of what we were seeding at the beginning and shadowing when we're talking about Jinbe and Moria, the value of Giant is that it basically free counters something. Because you do it in your round 10, so you go back to 10 Dawn, and then also you play it, you trash 1, you draw 2, and hopefully that 4K puts you at nothing, so you don't discard anything, right? So it really wants you to swing tall with like something that's between 5 to 8, even 9 power, so discard 1 card and filter. But they don't want you to go wide and eat their hand. And so what we see with this ban list is that the cards that are meta for letting decks go wide are hit, and the cards that interact with the big things going tall are hit. And so now you are playing mostly tall threats or wasting more tempo to play wide threats to combat this giant, which has not been hit.
Yeah. It's egregious to me. I don't know. It feel that being not banned plus these cards being banned really feel like a targeted thing.
I also just realized we have to play through OP10 like this.
We do.
Like this OP10 is gonna be a brand new format, which just kind of excite me to a degree. Of like we get an OP10 format that'll be different than everyone else's OP10 format in Japan, right?
I think I solved it. But,
Yeah, is it green yellow law? It's green yellow law, right?
I mean, kind of maybe. I mean, aggressive, right? So
yeah. Yeah. So my takeaways are, this is like a monkey's paw. Finally, I got Gecko Moria banned. Finally, I got Ice Age banned. And it just feels like it's at the wrong place at the wrong time for the wrong reasons with the wrong strays caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. And not only do we have these cards banned, but effectively we will have whole sets banned.
Yeah, so now we have block format. Now, okay, I think it's good to like talk about where we come from to the tabletop. So I come from originally Yu-Gi-Oh! Where there's no set rotation. I played a little bit of Pokemon because I collected, and so I understand how it works. I played some of the formats, is whatever. But then I played 6 years of competitive Magic, where I played standard and modern, and limited, a lot of limited, but like standard and modern are like the 2 main formats I played at the time. They were dominant formats.
Yeah.
So I played rotation format a lot. And so that my background is I'm someone who comes from card games playing rotation backgrounds.
My background is that I have played Hearthstone to a high ranked degree, which also has rotation based format in terms of like taking out old sets basically, which is what I'm witnessing right now. And the stride at which it did that was kind of similar to what's happening now. And what I'm telling you now is I'm not playing Hearthstone.
Yeah, so it's just like breaking down for everyone who like hasn't seen it or maybe doesn't get what's going on. So if you ever looked at your cards, in the bottom right corner, there's this little devil fruit icon with a number. And it basically tells you what year of the game the cards came out. So if you have a 1 in the corner, it's year 1, 2 in the corner, year 2. And as we are now getting to year 3, they have year 3s on them. The blocks are basically each year. So block 1 is year 1, block 2 is year 2, block 3 is year 3, etc. Starting in April 2026, which is a year from now, I read it wrong when I woke up and thought it was this April. And I was like, huh?
Yeah, what am I playing for Pasadena?
What am I playing for Vegas, brother?
Yeah.
Starting in 2026, we will be on a 2-block system, it seems like. Maybe it'll be 3, depending on how they stretch it. We don't really know because they just have this cutoff graphic right now. But basically, starting in 2026, only things year 2 and 3, actually it'll have to be a 3-block because it'll be year 2 and 3 and 4 will be coming out.
4 will come out.
So we'll be in a 3-block system, unlike a 2-block system that Magic traditionally was on. I think Pokemon's also on 2.
I think it's a little bit more. I think.
Okay. But anyway, so once we get to 2026, everything from sets 1 through 4 with the 1 Devil Fruit on it is illegal to play in the constructed format. Now, they did say there's going to be a different constructed format. We don't know if that'll be tournament supported necessarily, like Modern is Magic, or what's the Pokemon? Not Advanced.
Master? No, not Master.
No, it's Ages. Vintage?
Something
Vintage
like
is
that,
Magic. Yo, Hover Toxic, tell us what's up. But we don't know if it'll be tournament supported. So basically, as far as we're aware, the de facto competitive system going forward, once we get to 2026, will be OP05 through OP12 plus the new sets coming out. Which means anything from OP01 to OP04 won't be playable unless asterisk it's been printed in those years. Now, have they clarified if the starter decks count? So, for example, in year 2, we have a Nami reprint as Treasure Rare. Does that count as it existing in set 2?
I believe so because they specifically cite Nami as one of those cards that like has multiple block prints.
Okay.
But what I'm concerned with is like promos, right?
Yeah.
So
how do promos work?
How do promos work? How do leaders work? Right?
I think leaders rotate. I deadass think leaders are gonna rotate, but I think that's why I remember we had the leak a while ago that all the like base leaders are getting gold treatment prints. I think that's every year in PRB or whatever they're gonna do that.
Okay.
And I think they're gonna keep probably most of them in unless they feel like, hey, we think this is broken, but we don't want to ban it,
or we think this is like too untuned for the current.
Yes. Yeah, we need to upgrade it, so let it rotate out, and we're releasing a new version that makes more sense.
Things like Kinemon, things like Kuro, things like
Odin.
Odin, yeah. Like, okay, so from experience, right? From experience, when we have a block format, like people have brought this up to me often, or often in the past 8 hours, right? Where they'll be like, "Oh,
You've had a long 8 hours.
I haven't slept.
I woke up and Luke already made a community post. The Discord is popping. Like, by the way, join the Discord. Yeah.
But yeah, historically, right? If they're like, people are saying, "Oh, but like, don't sell your cards, Luke. Like, there's a legacy format. Like, you could still play them in legacy." Historically, the standard format is the thing that is 1, supported, 2, legitimized, and like 3, like most sought after. And I think like the rotation. Okay, frankly, I think the rotation system is a very, very good thing. It's a very good thing for the players and the game going forward. I think that this is a very good move that Bandai has done. I think it's a good move to encapsulate like how you get new One Piece people into One Piece, right? If we think about like the beginning chapters of One Piece being too long or too stretched out or whatever, so we have to make a new like
we have to make a live action and then a new animation.
Yeah, we have to make a Wit Studios like animation, right?
And then a fan group has to come together and make their own version called One Piece.
Yeah. Like if that's what they're yeah, if that's what they're like doing, right? Like I can see them like wanting to get new blood in by pushing the sets up. We no longer have new players coming in at 11 who need to go and buy 01 Otamas, right? Like, it's good for the game. It's like healthy in terms of like, how do we catch new audiences? Really who this is hitting are people like us, where we've been here from the beginning and we've been collecting the cards.
Yeah.
All my Big Mom cards are gonna go out of rotation next year, right? Like,
yeah, Luke has a near master set of every yellow alt art.
Yeah.
Because he just loves playing yellow decks.
And like literally like the first year and second year of that color are completely wiped, which is pretty disheartening. For me personally, it makes me feel like I don't want to invest in alternates anymore, knowing that like it's gonna rotationally spin out.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense for what they're doing. And it also feels like they're hitting a secondary card market at the same time. But I also don't know what that means for like old legacy cards in Pokemon, for instance, that are not playable, are still like Moonbryon, right?
Yeah,
cost a lot.
So I have 2 major points I want to get into before we get to micro. I think there's a really good positive and a really bad, not a bad negative, but this is like a doom forecast, like bad that could happen based on current market conditions, right? So the good thing about it is that it lets fresh mechanic and design take root, right? Without things being super outplayed. They can also not have to focus on power scaling things to justify you buying and playing them because things just rotate out naturally, so they can play more. It also means that the card pool inherently is shrunk, which means, like you said, 1, new players can get it easier. 2, by the shrunken card pool and the fact that stuff rotate out, this part can be a good or bad depending on how you see it. I think the overall value of cards will go down because cards rotate, and thus we might enter a Pokemon era of like, hey, SRs are already cheap, SRs are super cheap now, and then it's just all about alt arts for collecting. The difference being that with Pokemon has a legacy of collecting. Gotta catch them all is their marketing phrase. There's a lot of people who don't engage with the card game as a card game. They engage with the IP as a brand, and they collect it. And I know that's totally true for One Piece. I have friends, my one friend, Chris in the UK, buys One Piece packs to collect them and put them next to her K-pop cards.
Yeah.
Like, because she loves One Piece. And she sends me texts. I love when she sends me texts. I'm like, oh my god, I got this cool little ace, and it's just an SR, but she's so happy to have it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's that level of support that will hold up that market. Not that the market really matters. We're here to play the game, but like it's just like something that does matter to the overall community as a whole. And then here's the bad thing by that, right? So if the format is dictated by block rotations, there are 2 things that can be squeezed. 1, how much reprints are we getting? Because it means that we actually need more legacy cards. As a set rotates out and new sets come out and cards that weren't good are now good, now the need for like 2-year-old reprints might be a lot higher.
Yeah.
For not even for SRs, for like rares and uncommons, right?
That means that OP08 boxes are gonna go back up or something like that. Like,
there's gonna be a rare that no one touched, and now it's not even because it was good, like you could spec on it, like, oh, this is a good card, there's some cards to support it. It's like, no, this is the replacement for this now that these new things came out and these old things left. And we don't have it on the shelves anymore. And going off of that now, if the format is so dependent on the new product, and we cannot get allocations up and production up, the scalping market, which is already bad enough for One Piece, and is now being exacerbated currently by people are already scalping Pokemon, and they know One Piece is scalped.
Yeah.
So now the Pokemon scalpers, when they see One Piece, just grab One Piece too. I feel like, as I said, like, it can make the chart cards cheaper overall in the long term. I do think the release of new cards, coupled with the fact that what I do think is a good thing of global release coming out that we didn't really get to talk about yet, makes the formats more unknown, makes new cards more valuable because they're not solved yet, will spike the price of product on release.
Yeah, and it's and that's what to me, Mike, is like very disheartening, right? I mentioned before that I played Hearthstone, right? I've mentioned before that like I don't play Hearthstone anymore because of basically the creep of like, oh, the cards that I've like accumulated, that I've dusted for, the things that I've like really tried to grind out, like I wanted a gold Dr. Boom or whatever, right? Next set, I can no longer play that, right? Like that is disheartening to me as like a collector and as a player who wants to like represent the deck that I'm playing in like in a meaningful way, in the only meaningful way I think in the game.
Yeah.
So for me, like I like to imagine myself as like an average player, maybe a little bit above average.
You're a player
like,
plus, but that's what they want. The games are always targeted towards like the casual and the player plus, not the comp and not like the extreme casuals who buy one pack every month. You know.
Yeah. So it makes me feel like from now on going forward, I'm just doing minimum rarity decks and I'm just playing the crap out of it rather than hustling for pre-releases, rather than hustling for like these alternate cards, right? Which for me is like pretty liberating in a way, but like also pretty sad because this morning I was like, me and a couple of friends were like, hey, let's just liquidate like our 1 through 4s, right? But I was looking at my binder, I'm like, I have such good memories collecting these cards, which is very hard to like move. Like I don't want to move that, and that's very sad. So when I said that,
and also you're an adult that has like adult responsibilities.
Exactly.
Game,
like
right?
knowing that I could liquidate my cards and maybe pay for a mortgage is kind of crazy, right? Like that's not true, but like
maybe a car down payment.
Yeah, maybe a car down payment. That's probably more true.
Yeah.
But like that's like. When I say I have like a lot of emotions about like this is what I mean.
It's true. I mean, like everyone knows I'm the red green law guy.
Yeah.
I love law. I love all law decks, all ace decks, right? I have max rarity, not max. I have high alt-art rarity red green law that I always own because I love playing it for fun. I love brewing new ways every set, what are new tools. Like I'm really excited to try this Punk Hazard version I've been working on.
Yeah.
And I've seen Japanese players working on for 010, right? And 011. And that leader's gonna be gone. And if that leader isn't gone, a bunch of the tools are gonna be gone. And I don't expect it to come back unless they're going to use it as an opportunity to justify, hey, cool, we got rid of the base, let's make a new base for it that like feels less broken. I don't know.
And it feels like they're doing that, especially with the new Starter Deck 21. Because Starter Deck 21 has a bunch of like these cards that function kind of like how the first Starter Deck functioned, right? Like Nami's like move a 1 Rested Dawn. Now it's Nami moves 2 Rested Dawn. She costs 1 more, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels like that's what we're starting to build towards, is creeping on these old cards.
And so like for me, it's like, oh, I mean, I can still play that deck. I can find someone playing the legacy format and playing those games, but I can't just go to a local tournament store and play it.
Yeah.
I can't expect my friends to have those decks sleeved up if they're playing local tournament store matches, because those will, unless they really make a push otherwise, inherently be the rotated format. And that just kind of sucks. Like in general, as someone that like really loves this game for the flavor, the mechanics, and the fun game states it creates between the way they design cards, just inherently losing out on some of that does kind of suck.
Yeah.
I will say, as much as like I am as a competitive player and as someone that loves the freshness of deck building, excited about block system from that standpoint, because it's something I've already adjusted to. It's something that I think does breathe a lot of innovation time over time. The level of comfortability and relationship I built with this game is not based on that, and is now being stopped on a little bit. Not like to like the degree of like you're bullying me. I don't want it to like see too far, but there is definitely an emotional backlash I have to this that I'm tampering in because I think there's reasonable reasons to do this, but are also unfortunate, you know?
Yeah. And for those who are feeling that sort of way, know that we sympathize with you and we empathize with you like very much, because like Micah said, we are fans and players of this game. We love this game a lot. This is why we wouldn't have a YouTube channel that is a year long now at this point.
Yeah, hey. 1 year as of 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
3 weeks ago? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But I think that's the perfect segue into the best part for us, I think. In terms of...
Well, I mean, our format is Legacy.
Yeah.
4 Emperors, the first thing I woke up to was an ad into the Discord being like, how does this affect 4 Emperors? And I'm like, well, it's a singleton format, and it's Legacy. Just like, not that, obviously the recipe was taken and remixed, but it's Magic the Gathering's Commander, right?
Yeah.
Commander is a legacy format. It has its own ban list. You can play if you own a Lotus, a Black Lotus, you can play the Black Lotus.
Yeah.
Like that's
If you have a Gecko Moria.
If you got the one Gecko Moria in the deck, congratulations.
Yeah. So if you're about to sell all your alt arts, just keep one.
Yeah, just keep one of each, you know? I mean that's cool. I think that kind of like speaks on like something I wanted to hit on as we close out this video, which is like, in the end, whatever brings you joy about this game, the game still exists. The people you play the game and enjoy with still exist. You can find ways to enjoy it with them outside of a tournament. You can find ways to enjoy it with them inside of a tournament. Whether that's organizing your own nights for the format you want to play, whether that's making your own formats with your friends, whether that is finding new ways to enjoy the IP or the card game that maybe doesn't involve playing the literal card system. Maybe it's just watching the show together. Maybe it's just going to see the movies together. Maybe it's going to fan night at Universal or something together, right?
Yeah.
Just because one piece of this, I didn't even try that.
He said the name, child. He said the name.
I don't like that I did. I feel like it's undercutting my point I'm making.
No, yeah, but
just because one chapter of what you liked about this game is gone doesn't mean that there isn't those core elements still around. There isn't those things you can still find joy in.
Yeah.
With the people that you find joy in it with.
Yeah.
And for Luke, there's always Gundam.
It's flesh and blood now. Knowing Gundam's on the Bandai system, it's only 13 more sets until it rotates, man. I don't know, but I mean, yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay.
But guys, whether you're here commiserating with us, whether you're excited for the future of the game, like, to Mike's point, whatever brings you joy is the best part of the game. You have already spent all this time getting to know people at your local scene, getting to know us through our videos. Like, no amount of your cards disappearing is going to change that. So there are always going to be new decks in the future. There will be new ways to play. You don't have to alt out everything. It's okay.
You know, if I was a VFX guy, I would have asked you to bring your binder and pull up your yellow binder and then I Thanos snap it. That would have been great. But, anyway, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I know a lot of these, like a block system, very new for a lot of people, especially if this is your first game. And One Piece is a lot of people's first card game. Let us know in the comments. More than happy to help you. Let you know, like, exactly how things are working out if we didn't explain it well for you or you're just still confused. Also, always the community Discord. Join it in the description. You can go chat with us there anytime, and the other wonderful members of this community. But otherwise, we have an OP10 pre-release to go to. Time to go pull my Mangala.